Dark bleatings, everyone, and happy spooky season! It's October. The days are getting so short and dark now. It's my favourite. It's my happy place. They're just going to continue to get shorter, darker and colder, and I love it. My ideal holiday would be that place in Antarctica where the sun doesn't come up for like 60 days. I tried to book a holiday there one time, and apparently you can't just fly in and stay there for the 60 days. Or if you can, I couldn't figure out, so let me know if you've done that, because it's like a dream come true sort of destination. Anyway, I digress. What we're doing today is some extreme horror. I like to claim that I'm a big fan of sort of all types of horror. I do have my preferences. For example, I prefer supernatural over real world horror because I tend to not enjoy copious amounts of horrible human suffering unless it's like a zombie ripping them to pieces, and in that case for some reason I'm fine with it. I haven't read a lot in the way of extreme horror. I have read Exquisite Corpse by Poppy Z. Bright that I'm told is considered extreme horror. That book is a really hard read. I do think it might be some sort of work of artistic brutal genius though. I didn't even know that that was in the extreme horror category, so as you can tell I'm kind of a noob for extreme horror. I veered away from it on purpose for years, and I thought maybe that's not fair. If I claim to be a horror reviewer, maybe I should dip my toe in. So I went into the Books of Horror Facebook group and asked for extreme horror recommendations. I did say I was well, I didn't actually say I'm like an extreme horror newbie, but I did ask for the most depraved, disgusting, horrible stuff that people could recommend. So why didn't I go into one of the extreme horror groups, you might wonder? Because I was afraid. I thought that maybe the Books of Horror group might be marginally less extreme than the extreme horror groups. So I thought maybe I'll start there, and then we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll go for suggestions in one of those other groups a different time. So what I did was I left it a few days, let everybody give me their suggestions, and then I made a note, a literal note, because I am a note taker, of all of the books that were recommended to me, and then I bought the 5 most recommended books. I'm going to show you what I have purchased and what I'm about to read. Just a very quick disclaimer, if you're someone who really enjoys extreme horror or you're an extreme horror author, I want you to know up front that this video is not for me to just like bash extreme horror books. I don't think it would be fair of me to buy a bunch of extreme horror books knowing that it's not my preferred genre and then proceed to tear them to pieces. If I do like review, it's just going to be on story, structure and things like that, like what I would normally do, but I am planning to give these a fair shake. So without further ado, the top 5 most recommended books for me were Violence on the Meek by Stuart Bray, No One Writes for Free by Judith Sonnet, which a lot of people recommended to me also. This was one of the most recommended, which is Dead Inside by Chandler Morrison. But yeah, I really love the cover of this one, so yeah, I'm hoping for good things. This one has freaked me out before I've even got to it. In fact, as soon as I saw the cover, I really hoped that this one wasn't going to be in the top 5, because it's I think you pronounce it Zola by D.E. McCluskey. Now I love cheese, and just because I know that this is an extreme horror book, I'm really concerned that there's cheese on the cover. I just feel like this one might make me sick. And last but not least, and this one was probably inevitable because even though this came out years ago, I constantly see people still talking about it, and it's Womb by Duncan Ralston. So I haven't read the back cover synopsis of any of these books. I'm going in completely blind. I don't know what a single one of them is about at all. So these are going to be completely blind reads. Start with Violence on the Meek. Yeah, and so I'm going to give this a little read and I'll be checking back in with you shortly. So, wish me luck! Going in! Only 1 page in, Jesus Christ. I'm only a couple of pages in, and this narrator is so angry, which in itself is fine, but he's just mentioned kittens, so I'm pretty worried about that. Please don't do anything to the cats. Oh God. You know, I have 50 pages left, so I'm over halfway through, and this main character Paul isn't a very nice person, is he? The weird thing is that okay, so for like the first 20 pages, I was really shocked by literally every single thing I read. But as time went on, I guess I've got desensitized because it's definitely got worse, but somehow it's just not hitting me as hard. I think maybe that's intentional on the writer's part because the language is so abrasive and violent and nasty, like the tone is so awful that I think it just I think it's just like knocked me out of trying to relate to anyone and put me in an entirely different frame of mind to what I'm used to when I'm reading, because normally I'm very character centric and I need someone to relate to even if I don't like them. It's impossible with this book for me anyway, and I think that's the point. So I'll share more thoughts when I finished. I finished it. So some thoughts. Well, okay. What didn't I like? It's horrible, and also, but you know, I can't actually hold that against the book because of the subgenre of book. I willingly purchased and read this knowing it was going to be horrible, so that's not like a negative. Story wise, character wise, I did have to suspend my disbelief a little bit, not because of the narrator. I had no problem just like taking him at his word that that's what he's like. I know people who are fairly nihilistic. He's obviously an extreme case of somebody with absolutely zero empathy, and he's awful, an awful person. I had no problem with that. What I did have a bit of a struggle with was believing that the people that he encounters would make the decisions they make, namely his parents. So I had to sort of just switch off my brain a little bit for those parts. However, as far as the rest of the book goes, I'm really struggling with like how to articulate my thoughts because I feel so conflicted. Dare I say, there might be a certain particular type of artistry to writing something that is so insanely outlandishly absurd that it compartmentalizes your sense of empathy so that it allows you to stay engaged with the book and enjoying it. I mean, if enjoying is the right word for something like this, I'm not sure. But I was interested, I was engaged, sat here and read the whole thing. I didn't feel like I, wanted to throw it out the window or anything. Also, there was a plot point that I didn't see coming, but it was sewn in, so there was a nice little circular narrative quality to that, which I wasn't expecting, which I enjoyed. And also, in very dark ways, like there were bits that I just found funny. There's a part where he says, "I found myself in quite the pickle," and that really tickled me because that's how I talk. And it seems like a throwaway statement, but after reading every other sentence that this guy writes, we're in first person and everything he says is sort of littered with expletives and horrible language. So reading I find myself in quite the pickle, like really made me laugh. I just wasn't expecting it. It's quite funny. So Violence on the Meek. Would I read Stuart Bray again? Yes. I would have to be in the mood though. I don't normally judge an author by one book. I would normally like pick up 2 or 3 by an author before I decide if I like their general writing style. I don't know if I enjoyed it. I don't regret reading it. I just don't know how I feel about it. But that was my kind of first foray of the day, so let's see how I do with the rest. Judith Sonnet next. No One Writes for Free. I'm a little bit scared now after reading Stuart Bray's book. But, you know, gonna get a fresh cup of tea and we shall continue. Hello! So, I'm really enjoying No One Writes for Free so far. I am 64 pages in, and completely different kettle of fish to Stuart Bray here, like totally different writing style, totally different type of horror so far. I'm surprised that these are in like the same category of horror, in like the same sort of horror subgenre. In fact, so they're so different in tone and style and sort of like overall feel and everything, that I'm wondering what the definition of extreme horror actually is, and if someone could maybe talk to me in the comments about that, that would be great, because I'm wondering now if I've misunderstood the whole genre, because my impression of extreme horror was super violent, some stuff that would be considered quite offensive, sort of contextually speaking or thematically speaking, you know, terrible language, not without artistic merit or anything, I don't mean anything like that, but just like the harshest horror, like the book equivalent of something like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is how I sort of pictured extreme horror to be. So that's not what I've got here. This story is great. This is about a mother driving her two kids to college, where they're starting, and a man gets in the back of the car, and so far he's holding them hostage, and it's oh my gosh, it is so tense, but I am absolutely hooked. I'm really enjoying it. I have no idea where it's gonna go. I got a bad feeling about where it might go, but so far it's reading like something I would normally love to pick up. So yeah, we'll see. I'm enjoying it. So I may have spoken too soon. I've hit a page that's that is headed by warning, and let me read it. The following pages of No One Writes for Free are so graphic, disturbing, and depraved, we are legally obliged to give you time to put it down and decide whether or not you want to continue reading. If you read on, then you are consenting to witness the horrors ahead, which are at times unimaginable. You are also expected to read on at your own risk, knowing full and well that the producers of this book are not responsible for any side effects that you may or may not suffer. If you are at all squeamish, sensitive, or easily offended, I'm all of those, we recommend you find a happier story. If you do continue reading and find yourself growing weak with shock, to stave off sickness, fainting, and even death, repeat to yourself, it's only a book, it's only a book, it's only a book. So I may have spoken too soon, but I'm kind of excited now, I have to admit, so I'll be back with you shortly. No. I think my cats are full of dread also. I spoke too soon. I spoke too soon, you guys. Don't spoil anything, but this, unlike the last book, because of the way this is written, I can't disengage my empathy, and I'm very invested in these characters and I care about them. And this isn't written with, you know, shocking language or anything, and it makes it, what I just read, so much worse. If it had been written in Stuart Bray's style, I don't think that this would have hit me, but I feel like I'm going to cry. Honestly, like, I'm enjoying this book in that I am incredibly invested in the story and the characters, but oh my god, what I just read is absolutely horrific, and I don't know how much worse it can get, but I have a lot of book left, so wish me luck. I'm going back in. Judith Sonnet, how could you do this? You savage. I have to turn off for a minute. I think I'm gonna cry. Okay, I've calmed down now and I think I can handle this rationally from here on out. Judith Sonnet, I don't think you're a savage. I just think that what you've written is really savage. Finished. So, No One Writes for Free is absolutely brutal. It was horrible, just so horrible. The turning point, you know, going into the second act was like just ruined my day, my life, but it was very good. And then after that, there was a short story in the back called Cream Queen, which is absolutely disgusting, but provided some much needed dark and disgusting comedy after the absolute gut punch that No One Writes for Free was. So I was cringing and really glad I wasn't eating a snack while I read Cream Queen. And if you think from the title you know what that means, you don't. Just trust me, you don't. So a completely different type of story and language and everything to Violence on the Meek, but really good read, really difficult to read. This is probably more my flavour of extreme horror then. If there are sort of like different types of extreme horror, I would say Judith Sonnet is definitely an author for me. I would absolutely pick up more books by her without having to be prompted by an extreme horror tag or something like that. I'm going to go ahead now and have a look at some more of her books, add some things to my wish list. She did mention in the author's note a folk horror novel that she's written, so I would very much like to read that. So that's 2 down, and I think, oh god, let's go on to the one that I was fearing the most next. I feel like maybe this is just like a gross out sort of thing. I could be completely wrong. After the hard-hitting 2 books I've just read, I think I need something that is merely disgusting, you know, rather than life-ruining. So I'm going to go into this one next and I will see you soon. Hi, sorry for the location change firstly. My husband's gone to bed. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm still making this video, so I've moved downstairs, and sorry for the bland background of my bare wall. So I have 40 pages left of this atrocity. And while cheese does feature in this tale of pasteurization, it isn't really about the cheese. I made a grave error before starting this book. I decided to have a snack, and that was a bad idea. I'm just gonna finish it. Okay, so I have finished this charming mother-son tale. It's a light-hearted, you know, comedic romp through a familial relationship, with some cheese thrown in. So it's a really nice story. I mean, that's a slight exaggeration of how I feel about it. I mean, I did know it was going to be a disgusting, gross book. The cover itself wasn't a Gouda sign of things to come. I'm sorry. I can't believe I just made a cheese joke. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm done with the cheese jokes now. So I think really that this book being inflicted on me, which I did to myself, is entirely my own fault, because I realise now the fatal error that I made when I went into the Books of Horror group and I asked for recommendations. I said, give me like the most depraved extreme books. And I think what I meant was, give me humorous extreme books. And I asked for Depraved, and they gave me Depraved. This is the third book that I have read out of 5, and so far 3 out of 3 of these books have contained necrophilia, the R word, assault, that I'm too uncomfortable to even say, which should give you an idea of my comfort level reading extreme horror as I now know it, and also incest. So all the hits. This is definitely the most disgusting one of the 3. Filth is what it is. It does have a sense of humour, but I think I was too uncomfortable. Although I did recognise it in there, I was too sickened to appreciate it in its fullness. All I can say really is, if you pick this book up, then I Swiss you the best of luck. It's now around 2 o'clock in the morning, and I don't think I have like 2 or 3 hours of reading left in me. And also my soul feels dead. It's dead. It's possibly left my body entirely. And I think I just need to watch an episode of South Park or The In-Betweeners, you know, something light and colourful. I think that's what I need. Before I move on to the other ones, I need a little break. I have Womb and Dead Inside left, which I am looking forward to. Well, actually, I was looking forward to reading these before I started reading any of the books. And it's not that I haven't been enjoying them, it's just, it's a different reading experience. These books have been so extreme for me that even saying the phrase tongue-in-cheek feels perverted to me right now. So yeah, I think I just need to have a little palate cleanser, and then I will return with these in the morning, I think. So sweet dreams. Oh god, I hope I don't dream. I'm actually a little bit worried about what I'm doing to my subconscious right now. I don't think I thought this video through before I started. It's a new day, so we're back to read these bad boys that I have left. So I just want to very quickly, before I proceed, if you saw my last video, my FantasyCon book haul, I just want to assure you that I am not always in this onesie, and in the time between filming the last bit and now, I did indeed get dressed and leave the house. It's just, and I went out for dinner with my husband and I was all dressed up, and I thought, oh, I'll do a video while I'm all dressed up. That'll be nice for a change. But I got back into my house and it's so cold, and I just wanted to be cozy, and I thought, you know, if anyone will understand the need for pajamas and onesies, even if you're making a YouTube video, it's readers, people who like to be cozy when they read. So I just wanted to apologise, but not apologise for my attire, but just want to be comfy because I'm reading. So we're going with Womb next. Obviously this is the most well-known, to me anyway, of the books that I have selected. So we're 3 down, 2 to go. So I'm a little bit nervous after Zola, so wish me luck. I'm going in. Whew. Okay, so I'm about 60 pages, page 59, and so quick recap of what I've read so far. So we have a guy called Angel who's booked a motel room, and he's hired a sex worker called Shyla, who I really like, by the way. Really like her character. He's hired her, and he's telling her these stories. He's paying for her time. He's telling her these stories, and while he's telling her these stories, some very slight sexual stuff is going on, but nothing major for her anyway, I wouldn't think. It seems that he just wants someone to tell these stories to more than anything else, but there is a hint that there's going to be, you know, they're going to lead into something physical a bit later on. And the stories that he's telling her are entertaining, I gotta say. They're all, you know, extreme horror stories in that the subject matter is pretty brutal, and I have noticed as well, as he's telling these, they're sort of getting, well, to me anyway, they're getting sort of increasingly extreme. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume that that was a sort of storytelling device on the part of the author, because we're sort of escalating in severity, and obviously we're building towards some sort of climax, which I've got no idea what that could be at the moment. But I like how he's writing the story. I gotta say, I'm really surprised. For some reason, I was excited to read this, but I really didn't think that I would enjoy it. Couldn't tell you why, because I've gone in blind. I don't know anything about this book. I didn't even read the back cover synopsis, so everything in here has been a surprise to me. But I'm really enjoying, like, I think he's a good writer. I'm really enjoying the writing style. The storytelling is very engaging. These stories are like brutal, but not without empathy, but also not written in a way where everything you read is like devastating to read somehow. I don't know. I really am starting to think that there is an art to writing extreme horror that's different to writing other kinds of horror. I can't articulate my feelings on that properly because I can't quite figure out what I'm trying to say here. Like, I'm muddling through my own feelings about how I feel about reading these, so maybe I'll have a more cohesive thing to say later, you know, at the end of the video. I did just read a really very upsetting scene that involves a coat hanger, and I'll say no more about that. That was really awful. That was upsetting to read. So far, I'm really impressed by how the story's being told, because it's using one of my favourite storytelling devices, which is using a framework. So the framing device is Angel and Shyla in this room, and he's telling her these stories, and so we cut back to that at the end of every story, and then it's obviously the chapters are punctuated in these stories, which are obviously going to somehow loop back and relate to each other, hopefully. I would assume so. So enjoying it so far. I don't know what's coming, so yeah, I'm gonna carry on. I have one chapter left, and a lot of things have been revealed that I won't spoil. And I've suddenly remembered that so far I've quite liked Angel because he's very polite to Shyla. I've suddenly remembered that this is an extreme horror novel, and so far, like, the things that have been depicted are very extreme, but as far as like horror goes, there are some horrific things, but it hasn't read like a horror novel to me yet. And I've just remembered that we're all heading somewhere, and that Angel has like booked this room for a reason, and I'm worried is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just gonna carry on now and read the last chapter, because maybe I should have worked out where it's going, but I haven't. Let's see how it goes. Oh god. I finished. I finished reading. I finished reading. I finished. Get a grip. I finished. I'm calm now. I finished reading. Before I give my comments on this, I'm going to have a quick conversation with my husband, because I have to tell someone who's here what I just read, and also I just want to. I don't even know if the end of this is physically possible, so I'm gonna go and ask him what he thinks, and I'll be back with you. Okay, well, okay, so overall, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what it says about me that I enjoyed this so much. The the whole last chapter was, I had to suspend my disbelief quite a bit in a way that I didn't have to for the rest of the book, but I was like along for the ride and quite happy to do so. And obviously no spoilers, but what happens in the finale is, it's absolutely outrageous. And I think if I was reading this as like a piece of non-fiction, there's no way this would be funny. And I think that if I was reading it in any other subgenre of horror, this wouldn't be funny. I can't. Maybe when I've done reading everything and I've had time to sort of reflect on things, maybe I'll be able to articulate my feelings a bit more. I just felt like the tone it was written in for both Shyla and Angel there, the tone made it so that it wasn't like horrible to read. It was just, I don't know how I feel, but all I can tell you is that I really enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the lead up to everything. I think maybe, so far it's pretty tough for me between this and No One Rides for Free, which one is my favourite. But I didn't have laughs during Judas, so there is that. But all I can tell you is that I really enjoyed this, and the final chapter provided some much needed comic relief for me, which I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know Duncan Ralston's work well enough at all to know what his personality is. Does that make any sense? So I haven't read any of his other books, so I couldn't. I don't know what his intent was. I think his intent was to be entertaining with that finale, and entertaining in sort of like a grotesquely atrocious way. I'm gonna move on because I don't want to just sit here rambling, but I'm gonna move on to the last book, which is Dead Inside by Chandler Morrison. Yes, Chandler Morrison. I'm not gonna read the synopsis for this either. I'm going to make a cup of tea and then jump into this one, so I'm really excited for it now. So I'm about 60 pages in, just over a third of the way in. Here are my thoughts so far. I have hit a snag in my enjoyment, and it's this. And this could just be me. Let me explain. So necrophilia, whatever. The specific type of cannibalism, quite upsetting, but I like with Violence on the Meek, I kind of hit that and was like, okay, this is a no empathy required kind of book. Switch that off and then just sort of like read it for the enjoyment of the shock factor or something. But our main character has just had a conversation with a girl that's in the hospital he works in, and she's telling him how much she just loves being R-worded, which I'm too uncomfortable to say, I just can't say it. And that whole little scene has really bothered me. Now there are reasons for this. I don't have any specific triggers myself, and if I did, I wouldn't just be going blindly into all these books. However, I just really have a problem with that whole scene and the way it was depicted, because even, I know it's fiction, but we're talking real world fiction here, so I do expect, like, I don't expect to have to suspend my disbelief for something that feels, I don't want to say misogynistic. Like, I don't know this author, so maybe I've misunderstood. But the take on this character that he's written, I really just don't believe that this is a conversation that would ever happen. And maybe I'm a sheltered person. Maybe I don't know. I'm not very deep into like, I don't know about the world of fetishes and stuff, for example, so maybe this is just me being naive. Also, I think one of the other reasons that this may have just bothered me so much is because I've read these books, 5 of these books now, this is the last one, read them in very quick succession, just one after the other, had a little break for sleep in between, but it's that's all I've been doing. And this 5 out of 5, this is the 5th one in a row that I've read that involves the R word, and because that's something that does bother me, I think that maybe I just hit my limit with being able to just breeze over it now. So I don't know if it's the fault of the book or just because I have hit my personal limit where I just went, oh, this again. So yeah, this isn't necessarily on Chandler Morrison, and I'm starting to think, you know, that particular subject matter seems to be a staple of the subgenre, which is one of the reasons I think I've been avoiding it, because I pick up on that when other people talk about books. So those are my thoughts so far, but we'll carry on, because, you know, otherwise this is a charming tale of two people who work in a hospital and you know, a weird meet cute. So I'm gonna see if this develops into a romance. So I'm gonna get back into the book. Just a quick little something that's amusing me is whenever he wants to get out of a conversation or something, he says, I have to go check the monitors. It's really reminding me of Patrick Bateman's I have to return some videotapes, so it's kind of funny. Oh. Oh dear. Oh no. 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 Nope, 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 nope. I was starting to think that I actually didn't have a specific limit for where I'd want to stop reading something. But I do, and I found it, and it's on page 97, and this is easily the worst thing I've ever read, even with everything I've just read. Oh. I'm having a bad moment right now. Ugh. I'm on page 123 and there's been a revelation, and I have an idea about where I think this might go in the end, and I'm so scared that it's going to go there because after what I've already read, the writer would do it. I bloody knew it. I knew it. Yes, I have finished this one. It was too extreme for me, let's say that. If you're an extreme horror fan and you're looking for something that just, you know, crosses all the lines, then this is probably a good one for you. Not my particular cup of tea, but I have figured out why. I figured out why I like some of these and why not so much on the others. So let me go into my thoughts. Okay, so after reading all 5 of these, so we went Violence on the Meek, then No One Rides for Free, then Zola, oh Zola, Womb, and then Dead Inside. So of these 5, Zola and Dead Inside aren't my particular cup of tea, and I think that they were I don't want to say that most extreme, because I guess that's a subjective sliding scale anyway. I guess most extreme to me means subject matter that is the most disturbing to me out of everything that's in these books. So everything is disturbing, but everyone's got a different bar and different preferences, I suppose. So these two were focused on things that to me were deeply upsetting, and for that reason I didn't like them as much as the others. Violence on the Meek, I would say after finishing all of the books now, I'm about like a medium on this one. I liked Stuart Bray's writing. I would probably read more by Stuart Bray. No, I enjoyed No One Rides for Free and Womb for different and samey reasons. So this has been a very interesting exercise for me. I've reacted sort of like I thought I might to some things, and then very differently, especially to these two. So I think some of the reasons that I really enjoyed these 2 stories so much, despite the horrific subject matter, is because no matter what genre I'm reading in, I am a very character-centric reader. So what I care most about is character, and then probably the storytelling devices, methods, and narrative structure, and then story. So I'm really not like a story orientated person unless I can't relate to the characters at all, and then in that case I become a plot-centric reader, so I care about the story. So in the case of Dead Inside Soul and Violence on the Meek, these are all, you know, layered characters and everything, but I couldn't find anything to relate to in any of these. So I don't need to like a character, but I do need to find them relatable for me to be engaged with the character. And because that was impossible for me with these three, I then moved on to, okay, do I care about the plot? Am I engaged with the plot? In the case of this one, I was. It, you know, it was building somewhere, and I felt like I was on a journey with this one, so that one I enjoyed reading. These two, I think I just really didn't like the story either, so you know, that's not really like on the writers though. That's a very subjective thing, isn't it? So you know, I was already kind of in a mood with these because I couldn't get on with the characters. So kind of getting me really hooked into the plot is going to be a tall order after that anyway. I know a lot of people who read a lot of extreme horror, and what I can say sort of just like across the board is that all of my extreme horror fan friends have got very good sense of humour, like they're quite funny people. So I'm wondering if maybe the draw of extreme horror isn't necessarily like character or plot anyway. I'm wondering if the draw of it is being entertained and amused by like ridiculously horrific acts. So if that's what the pull of extreme horror is to like the average extreme horror fan is, then I guess that I wouldn't be the ideal reader anyway, because I shy away from that stuff, so I'm not sure. But so with these two, let's start with Womb. So I was thoroughly entertained by Womb. I thought that I really enjoyed the storytelling methods, the narrative structure, I enjoyed the writing. I really liked Shyla, so I was quite invested in her. And for quite a long time, I liked Angel, and I was interested in all the stories he was telling. So this was kind of like a home run for me in that I was very invested in the characters, and I did relate to Shyla in that she just seemed like a nice person getting by, and Angel had like clearly had trauma, and they just didn't seem like bad people to me, and I liked them. And then I was finding the story really interesting, so that was like a double hit for me. And then No One Writes for Free, this was just a great book for me. This is something that I would have like picked up anyway, I think. Or this is the kind of book I would normally like to read anyway, even though like the violence gets really horrific, like more than what I'm used to. But yeah, this was like an all-round great story for me. It's kind of hard for me to pick a favorite out of these two because I like them for different reasons, and this one made me laugh so much, and I don't normally get that as a reading experience. So I think that I like enjoyed this one more because I found it lighter than this one. However, this one, No One Writes for Free by Judith Sonnet, actually like hit me emotionally. Like this was the most normal reading experience for me, for what I normally look for as a reading experience, and it just went over what I would be used to. But I think that Judith Sonnet is really talented, and she told this story with a lot of respect given to the emotional weight of what's happening, and like really pulled off the whole story. So I was like super impressed with this, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading more from Judith Sonnet. So she is an author I will like definitely be picking up more of her books, 100%. So yeah, I look forward to it. Okay, so moving on to the last thing that I want to talk about, and that is trigger warnings. And this might be a bit of a controversial thing to end on, but bear with me. Okay, so trigger warnings, the need for them, should authors be including them, etc. Here's where I land on this. So Judith has a trigger warning in the front of her book, and then before we get to the extreme content, there is a full page in there reminding you that very upsetting content is about to come up, and it's just giving you the opportunity again to like close the book if you maybe forgot about it. And I appreciated that because I braced myself from that point. But I mean, I was braced for the whole thing because I was reading extreme horror. Stuart Bray included a note in the front with details about what the most serious trigger could be. So that was in the front. Zola has a little note on the back which made me laugh that says, if you are a lover of cheese and indeed of decency, then this extreme horror novella may contain triggers, you have been warned. So I think that that's fair warning as well. And then Dead Inside, which for me was by far the worst one in terms of sort of upsetting content, and Womb contained none whatsoever. So it's kind of a weird argument. I don't necessarily think that authors actually have like a responsibility to include trigger warnings, because I wouldn't say that I have triggers, but there are certain things that I look up things when I read a book or watch a film. So I use doesthedogdie.com for that, funnily enough, because I want to know if there's animal abuse in a book before I read it. Now I won't not buy a book because of animal abuse, but it really upsets me, so I like to know beforehand if there is going to be any, just so that I can brace myself when an animal crosses my path in a book. And then that way it doesn't like ruin the reading experience for me, because I was like braced and warned ahead of time. But I do kind of think it's my responsibility to look up something to see if that kind of content that's upsetting to me is in there, because I feel like it's up to me to manage my own kind of mental health stuff. However, I don't think it hurts to put trigger warnings on books, especially if you're writing about very sensitive topics, things like suicide and extreme sexual assault, anything to do with children. I think that, you know, it's a considerate and kind thing to do to put a trigger warning on your book if you're writing something that contains that kind of stuff. I don't know why there is such a strong argument against it. I would never have a go at an author for not including it, because like I said, I don't necessarily think it's an author's responsibility, but I do think it's a courtesy that it's nice for you to extend to your readers. But people who argue against trigger warnings full stop, I don't really get, because if you're not someone who needs them, then why would it doesn't affect you, so it's kind of like not for you, so I don't understand why you would have an issue. Secondly, I really don't like the argument that I've seen quite a lot that, you know, if you're someone with triggers, then maybe you shouldn't be reading horror, because that's just so exclusionary and kind of sort of, I don't know, it's very dismissive. We've been, you know, we've had this in film for decades. First of all, with age ratings. The age rating will kind of tell you, you know, age appropriate, you know, content, so you'll know if there's going to be strong language or violence or sex potentially, and things that wouldn't be suitable for certain age groups. And then as well as that, films also include a note that lets you know if the film depicts scenes of self-harm, for example, or animal abuse or child abuse, and no one seems to have an issue with that in film, so I don't know why there would be an issue including it with a book. That's kind of just my 2 cents anyway. I think I didn't actually like look at the trigger warnings before I went into these, because I wanted to have sort of like, you know, authentic first time reading experience. So, but I did very much prepare myself mentally for being offended and shocked, and I kind of expected to see anything and everything. And I think the Dead Inside is the only thing that actually kind of surprised me with the content. So there's that. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. I'd love to know what you think about that. I have had an experience reading these books. I have learned that I'm offended by certain things that I would never have expected to see in a book. So now I know what to avoid. Now I know what to Google before I go into something. I'm very surprised to find that I probably am going to continue reading extreme horror from this point forward, which I really didn't think was going to be the outcome. I thought that this video was just going to be sort of a montage of me being offended and, you know, humorously ranting and raving, but that isn't quite what's happened. Definitely going to be reading more Judith Sonnet, and I'm definitely going to be reading more Duncan Ralston, and very likely Stuart Bray as well, but I might Google ahead of time what the book's about before I do that. I'm not closed to reading anything more by Chandler Morrison or D.E. McCluskey. If you're fans of any of these writers, and based on my preferences for what I've read here, if you have any more recommendations for me from these authors or anyone else outside it, I'd love to read those recommendations. If you could put them in the comments for me, maybe I can do a part 2 of this when I'm more of a seasoned extreme horror reader, and maybe I can, you know, maybe go into some more detailed reviews. I hope that this has been fun for you guys. It's I'm not sure it's been fun for me, but it's been a good experience. So yeah, I will see you next week. I still don't know how to end a video, so please